Good deeds are a fruit of every true believer's walk with God. But today I want to ask us the question, why do you do the good things that you do? Is it to try and keep up with appearances and earn the praise of men? Or is it to genuinely and sincerely bring honor and glory to God? Hey there everybody, my name is Joyce Omondi Waihiga, and today on CITAM Church Online, I'd like to share with us about keeping our motives in check. Matthew chapter 6 verse 3 to 6 says this: "But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by men. I tell you the truth, they have their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." Let me also read verse 16. "When you fast, do not look somber as the hypocrites do, for they disfigure their faces to show men they are fasting. I tell you the truth, they have received their reward in full. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that it will not be obvious to men that you are fasting, but only to your Father who is unseen, and your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." That's verse 16 to 18. Now, it's far easier to do what is right when we gain recognition and when we gain praise. But in these verses that we've read here from Matthew chapter 6, Jesus is actually teaching us that we need to check our motives, and he points out three distinct areas. Number one is in giving, in our generosity, and we saw that in verse 4. The second area was as far as prayer, which was touched on in verse 6. And then the third is in fasting, which we looked at in verse 16 to 18. Now, whenever we do these things, with the intention of people seeing us and sort of praising us and just saying how we're such great, wonderful Christians, celebrating our good deeds, if that is our intention, then we've actually missed the mark, okay? Whatever we do should not be self-centered. It needs to be God-centered. It needs to not make us look good, but to make God look good through us, okay? And so whereas we're able to fool man, we can trick man, with the real intention behind why we do what we do. But the truth is we cannot do that with God, because God actually looks into our inner man. Whereas we can focus on appearances and keeping up with them, God is actually more concerned with our hearts, and he's looking deep within our spirits for our true intent. All right? So we actually need to learn to pause and reflect for a moment and ask ourselves, why am I doing the things that I am doing? They're good things, and it's wonderful to do good things. But why am I doing these good things? Is it for his glory, or is it for mine? All right? And so I want to share with us three ways in which we can check our motives and keep them in check. All right? Number one is to ask God to search us. Psalm chapter 139 verse 23 says this: "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts." Verse 24, "See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." That's the first way, is really for us to submit ourselves to God and to say, God, I'm an open book before you. yeah, I'd like to kind of earn some brownie points and look good before men, but I know that's not what you desire. So search me and take away those feelings, take away that desire to try and almost compete with your glory. Ask God to search you. The second thing is to then ask yourself some very hard questions. Questions like, am I doing this to be recognized, to be seen, to be loved, to be celebrated? Ask yourself, would I do this even if it was just a small thing, even if it wasn't going to be anything that's going to get a lot of attention? Would I still do it if God asked me to do it? Ask yourself, will I quit doing this? Okay, will I stop doing this act of love or this act of service if it was actually going to draw me any sort of criticism, or is actually going to receive some sort of attack for doing it for God's name? I ask myself, would I still do this thing even if no one thanked me, no one came to celebrate me, if no one came to reward me for doing this good deed? Would I still do it? Those are some hard questions to ask ourselves, and the truth is, for me, sometimes I really fail with those answers. But that is one of the ways in which we can absolutely keep our motives in check. The third way I want to share with us is really to ask God to align us to His plan and to give us that grace and enabling for us to truly be aligned to His will. John chapter 15 talks that apart from Him we can do nothing. And even these good works that we're doing, it's not like they're gonna get us into heaven, because our good works do not suffice with the sacrifice that Jesus made on Calvary. And so ask yourself those three questions. Ask God to search you, to really look within your heart and to take away any sort of thing that seeks to compete with His glory. Ask yourself some hard questions, why you really do the things that you do. And finally, ask God to align you with His will. Because when we're focused on His will, all we care about is Him receiving glory. All we care about then will be Him receiving praise, and not about whether people celebrate us, whether they reward us, whether they even thank us. I really hope that you've been challenged by this message today, as I certainly have. And please do share your comments on our social media handles at CITAM Church Online. And until next time, God bless you and keep your motives in check.